On his Star Destroyer Anakin Solo, Jacen struggles to fall asleep. After attempting to kill his own parents during the Battle of Hapes, he is only troubled by one thing. Why doesn't he feel guilty? Leia suddenly appears by his side and smashes his viewport, sucking them both into space. Jacen then wakes up, realizing it was all a dream. Kip Duran greets Luke and Mara as they land back on Coruscant. Luke has a new prosthetic hand now, having lost the old one in his duels with Lumia. Jaina is also there, and takes Ben and Zek to the Jedi Temple. Zek is still wounded, having been accidentally struck by Ben with his lightsaber when the young Skywalker tried to arrest Han Solo. Kip reveals to Luke and Mara that Calo Moss and Admiral Niathal want Jacen to be promoted to Jedi Master. Near the Corellian system, smuggler Uran Levant attempts an impossible run at breaking the Alliance blockade, leading a small group of ships. The run fails, with all the smugglers being detained. It is revealed that Levant is a double agent for Jacen Solo and has sold out her comrades for a large reward. Jacen refuses to form a partnership with her and commandeers her ship, giving her the rundown Duracrud instead. After a parting bar by Levant, Jacen then orders for a hyperdrive to be sabotaged, stranding her. Shortly after, Jacen meets with the aging Wedge Antilles, hoping to convince him of Corellia's impending defeat in the war. Wedge refuses to surrender, and remarks how Jacen has changed so much during the conflict. Flying back to the Anakin Solo, Jacen reflects on Anakin's death and his captivity with the Yuuzhan Vong. He comes to terms with the fact that he would not hesitate to sacrifice his parents or even Jaina if they threatened peace in the galaxy or his daughter Alana. His younger self, for all intents and purposes, is gone forever. Meanwhile, Wedge travels back to Corellia to meet with the Five Worlds Prime Minister, Jacen. Wedge was not informed of the attempted coup against Tanel Ka, and only learned of it upon the disastrous defeat at Hapes. Despite his attitude at the meeting with Jacen, Wedge knows defeat is inevitable for Corellia, but they have an opportunity to negotiate for peace. However, the government demotes him, replacing the hero of the rebellion in Yuuzhan Vong War with Admiral Jenna Delpin. Wedge instead resigns from the military completely and decides to make a final speech to the public. He knows he will have to escape Corellia soon after to avoid assassination. The Millennium Falcon arrives at the Gindine system for repairs, greeted by Lando Calrissian. Han and Leia are dejected, shattered at the fact that their own son tried to kill them. They give the Falcon to Lando for repairs and prepare to leave soon after arriving. On the Anakin Solo, Jacen meditates, opening himself fully to the Force. He learns Lumia survived her battle with Luke and Mara and is still healing in an unknown location. Jacen remains committed to choosing Ben as his future Sith apprentice, but confides he knows he would be willing to sacrifice him if need be. Lumia urges him to test Ben, saying she will coordinate something soon. Luke and Mara must also now deal with their son, who has fallen into a chilly silence. Ben is frustrated with how his parents seem to persecute Jacen, his mentor, hero, and idol. They are interrupted by the surprise arrival of the exiled Jagged Fell. He gives them a device that can be used to track Alema Rar and Lumia, telling them he still intends to hunt Alema down to redeem himself and his family. Meanwhile, Han and Leia take the Love Commander, given to them by Lando, on a course to Corellia. They intend to discover who ordered the attack on Tanel Ka. Elsewhere, the smuggler Levant is now stranded in space in the Duracrud. It is revealed that Alema Rar has stowed away on the ship, however. She says she will fix the ship if Levant can take her to Jacen's parents. On Corellia, Wedge prepares for his escape after giving his farewell speech. He believes Jacen will attempt to assassinate him in the coming days. Wedge dons a disguise of a Centerpoint station worker and sneaks out to find the speeder his wife, Yella, has stolen for him. Assassins then attack him, and Wedge narrowly escapes with a warning from Yella and his daughter Miri, and the aid of none other than Corran Horn and his own daughter Mirax. Luke offers Jagged Fell the resources of the Jedi to find Alema Rar. He hopes she can be brought back to the temple to be redeemed, but understands the situation may dictate that Jagged kill her. Jaina and Zek will also accompany him, technically as subordinates to the annoyance of Jaina. Meanwhile, Lumia disguises herself as a Hapen, though she is still wounded from her battle with Luke and Mara at Roku. She contacts a Bothan intelligence officer. The Bothans are currently being detained by the Galactic Alliance Guard on Coruscant for their alleged involvement in the death of the World Brain. Consequently, they have prepared 3 assault fleets in secret. Still posing as a Hapen, Lumia offers to blind the Galactic Alliance observers so the Bothans can launch a sneak attack. She also gives the officer files detailing the assassinations of Bothan personnel on Coruscant. Han, Leia, and Lando are able to land on Corellia. They watch a news broadcast of Wedge's retirement speech. They then meet up with Denjax Tepler, a secret mole in Gejen's personnel, in a cantina. He tells them Gejen was behind the failed plot to kill Tenel Ka on Hapes, and that Wedge had no involvement in the scheme. Corellian police barge in, and Leia cuts a hole in the floor for them to escape and flee back to the ship. Elsewhere, Wedge, Corran, and his family are hiding in a hangar, coincidentally where the Love Commander is also docked. Corran detects Leia in the Force as her party rushes to the ship. Wedge and the others realize they are being chased by the police, and hastily make plans to evacuate. The 2 parties are able to escape the hangar and meet up in orbit, but still face the issue of escaping the blockade. They manage to hail the Star Destroyer Errant Venture. On Coruscant, Ben has resumed his training at the Jedi Temple. He is approached by a fellow apprentice, Seha Dorvald, who covertly gives him a small card. It turns out to be a mission from Jacen, who coordinated it with Lumia, unbeknownst to Ben. Ben is tasked with finding the Amulet of Kalara in the planetary offices of Almania, which has the power to mask any person's use of the Force, creating a similar effect to a Yuzon Vong warrior. He departs immediately, not even telling his parents of the mission. However, Luke and Mara quickly learn of Ben's disappearance and immediately question Jacen, who is angered at their apparent lack of respect. Moreover, he is confident neither of them are able to get any read on his true emotions. Jacen is able to manipulate them into thinking Ben has truly run away, and they remain unaware of his schemes with Lumia. Wedge and Leia's parties meet up with Booster Tarek. They all come to believe there is a hidden party pulling the strings of the Second Galactic Civil War. Leia proposes that the Errant Venture be used as an intelligence resource in the Corellian system. She knows that Luke will disapprove of the destroyer moving to the system, which means Jacen will then likely accelerate the process of approving the move to spite Luke. The Errant Venture is converted into a massive casino, hoping to take advantage of the local military personnel's restlessness to gain intel. Captain Levint then docks on the destroyer, along with Alema Rar, who leaves to hunt down Han and Leia. Meanwhile, Luke and Mara investigate Lumia's apartment and track her comms trail, discovering a large network of tunnels she likely uses as an escape route. Jagged, Jaina, and Zek have also found no trace of Alema Rar on Coruscant. They believe Leia may be her next target. Lumia contacts Senator Rodan, still in her Hapen disguise. She gives him apparent plans of the Galactic Alliance detailing how they will take the planet Comenor after the fall of Corellia. Although her manipulations have put several big players in motion to ally with Corellia and betray the Alliance, Lumia is still in a weakened state. She then disguises herself as the wife of the Mad Matra Klauskin, former commander of the Alliance 2nd Fleet's Corellian Task Force, via a Force Phantom. Lumia is able to manipulate him into betraying the Alliance and to help Comenor, Corellia, and Botha Wooey. Ben reaches the planet of Almania, passing the time by reading texts about Anakin Skywalker, which had been assigned to him by Jacen. He infiltrates the offices and finds the Amulet of Kalara's display case. However, it is empty, with a note revealing someone named Fascus of Ziost has stolen it already. Ben knows he must track down Fascus, as Jacen had emphasized they could not let the amulet's power fall into the hands of a darkside user. Also unknown to Ben, he is being tracked by a Bothan named Bialfin Dur, who works for Lumia. Ben steals an old Y-Wing starfighter, and also acquires an R2 unit named Shaker. Admiral Klauskin returns to the frigate Shamunar, informing its crew their assignment has been changed. He tells them that parts of the military have been compromised, and they must root out to traitors, who are believed to be working for the Bothans. Later, Klauskin opens the ship to the atmosphere, killing essentially the entire crew. He hails a Bothan officer via hologram and tells him the ship is ready to be claimed. Meanwhile, Luke and Mara learn that Jacen and Ben were led to Bimial by a woman named Brisha Sio, and come to believe she may be Lumia's daughter. Luke worries Brisha is now hunting Ben, and they decide to confront Jacen again. They fly to the errant venture and reunite with Leia. It turns out Jacen is also on the Star Destroyer. He runs into Levant, then looks up to see Luke and Mara as well. Jacen can barely disguise his distaste for his aunt and uncle anymore. They question him about what happened on Bimial, and he tells them he believes Ben was the one who fought and defeated Brisha, who Luke and Mara still believe to be Lumia's daughter. Then, they receive news a fleet has dropped into the system, sparking a battle. Jacen rushes back to the Anakin Solo as Alema watches him from a distance. Luke and Mara also begin to run, presumably towards a ship. Alema stalks them, preparing to shoot Mara with her poisonous blowgun. She misses, but then sees Lando amidst a surging crowd and tracks him instead to find Han and Leia. It turns out that Bothans and Commonorians have raised their fleets to attack the Alliance in support of Corellia. Jacen flies his shuttle to Center Point, where an ugly battle is broken out. He gives the order to open fire on the weapon, looking to destroy it and prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Luke, Mara, Corrin, and Wedge all help evacuate the errant venture, with Luke staying with the other Alliance forces to assess the situation. The Alliance of Corellia, Bothawui, and Commonor is able to break the Alliance blockade, although heavy damage was inflicted on Centerpoint Station during their retreat. A negotiated peace now no longer seems possible. Luke meets with the Jedi High Council on Coruscant, expressing his concerns over Ben and how teaching the students of the Academy may falter during the war. Silgal worries the Jedi are developing too many attachments, abandoning a basic tenet of the Order of Old. The issue of Leia's loyalty also comes up, as she is fighting for Corellia and, consequently, the Order. It is decided she will be allowed to stay as part of the Jedi. Meanwhile, Ben arrives at Zioth, surprised by its lush green landscape despite its malevolent presence in the Force. He is still being tracked by Deer, who is reporting all his movements to Lumia. Soon after landing, Ben's Y-Wing is destroyed by Deer and his gang, effectively stranding him and the droid Shaker. As the days pass, he battles harsh conditions and a rapidly dwindling food supply. Ben finds Vasquez, accompanied by his younger daughter, Kiara. He attacks Vasquez and is able to take the amulet. Vasquez reveals Deer had told him to bring the amulet to Zioth, then open fire on his ship when they landed. He dies from his wounds, and Ben prepares to abandon Kiara to find Deer. However, driven by guilt and his conscience, he returns to help Kiara and bury Vasquez. The situation continues to worsen for the Alliance, as the shipyard world of Fondor joins the newly formed Corellian Confederation. Bespin and Adumar soon follow suit. Centerpoint Station is still intact, and the war soon reaches a stalemate, with neither side pressing for a large assault. It instead becomes a war of propaganda and arms races. Alliance intelligence still does not know how assault plans got into the hands of Bothawui and Commonor, which swayed both worlds to join Corellia. They learned the Confederation plans to elect a supreme commander in the coming days. Jacen feels it is essential they infiltrate that meeting. The tension between Zek and Jaina grows as she rekindles her relationship with Jagged Fell. However, they all put aside their differences to find Alema when she is discovered to be on the errant venture. Meanwhile, Jacen finds Levant once more and asks her to infiltrate the meeting and gain intel. On Ziost, Ben struggles with restless nights and disturbing voices in his head that try to push him to darkness. His party is tracking the TIE fighter that destroyed his Y-Wing, hoping to find its base. Lumia learns that Ben has taken Kiara along, much to the Sith's disappointment. She believes this mercy means Ben will not be a suitable apprentice for Jacen, and gives Deer the order to kill them both. As hunger and the voices threaten to overwhelm Ben, he suddenly has a strange vision of a ship, seemingly powered by thought and feeling, yet not organic in nature. Ben is able to find the mysterious ship, communicating with it through the Force. He uses its strange alien weapons to defeat their pursuers, and sets a course for Coruscant. Han and Leia return to the Gindine system. reboarding a repaired Millennium Falcon. They receive a message from Levant at the hands of Jacen. She tells them of Alemarar's plans and the Confederation meeting. They decide to fly back to the errant venture and meet up with Jaina, Zek, and Jag. A task force is formed to hunt down Alema, but she manages to steal Levant's ship and escapes. Han, however, has learned the location of the Confederation meeting and gives the info to Levant to pass on to Jacen. Jacen and Niathal learn the meeting will take place on Galador 8 in 2 weeks. He proposes sending in Jedi Stealth X fighters to sneak in and signal a fleet, which will then ambush the Confederation forces. Jacen is visited afterwards by Lumiya, who does not tell him of her order to kill Ben on Ziost. He plans to take her with him on the mission. They disguise themselves as diplomats and approach the space station. The meeting, however, turns out to be a trap. Jacen is immediately exposed and learns General Tur Fenner has already been elected Supreme Commander. A trap has been laid for the Alliance fleet. Jacen is able to warn Luke and the Alliance, and Han and Leia decide to fly in and rescue him. It is revealed that Alema is also on the space station, watching Jacen as he battles off attackers. Luke and Mara also land to rescue Jacen, despite their differences. Lumiya then approaches Alema and agrees to help her attack Mara. She challenges Luke, and Leia catches sight of Alema and rushes forward to duel her. In the midst of the space battle around them and the duels breaking out, Jacen abandons his rescuers and flees to the Alliance fleet. Lumiya approaches Luke with her palms up, claiming she has no animosity towards him. Luke senses she is truthful and deactivates his weapons. It is then revealed Alema has autopiloted Levant's ship to crash into the space station, forcing everyone to flee. Jacen, meanwhile, flies back to the Anakin Solo as the battle turns into a slugging match between the Alliance and the Confederacy. The battle ends in a draw, with neither side accomplishing much, but the Confederacy declaring victory anyways. Luke and Mara return to Coruscant, troubled by Jacen's actions, but relieved that Luke can sense Ben once more in the Force. Jacen is furious at his mission's failure and how easily he fell into the trap. Shockingly, he comes to realize that he does not and cannot love Han and Leia anymore. They cannot be a sacrifice to ascend to a Sith Lord, but they remain complications towards his plans for galactic stability. In his heart, Jacen says goodbye to his parents and resolves that once and for all, they must die. Ben Skywalker returns from Ziost, piloting the strange Sith meditation sphere and having successfully captured the Amulet of Kalara. The sphere guides him to Jacen on board the Anakin Solo. Ben is able to dock onto the Star Destroyer and is ordered by Jacen to keep the sphere a secret. Lumiya decides to take the sphere, feeling a special connection to it. Jacen notes she does not react or question Ben when he mentions the attempt on his life. However, she does sense the time of Jacen's great sacrifice is drawing near. Meanwhile, Boba Fett and his granddaughter, Murda Gev, fly to Mandalore and meet with the other Mandalorians who have come from across the galaxy. He decides Mandalore will remain neutral in the war, and that mercenary work will continue as normal. Fett and Murda then leave to track down the clone Murda-Met, who has seemingly defeated the aging process. Fett still seeks his help in curing his own chronic illness. Jacen meets with Cal Omas and Niathal to plan the next steps in the war. He advocates for more shows of force to Omas's concern, as the Chief of State is well aware more planets are seceding by the day. Niathal acknowledges the Alliance is dangerously overstretched, and privately knows a quick collapse is more likely than a slow decay. The subject turns to Mandalore's neutrality, and Jacen confesses to killing Aelin Fett while interrogating her. Niathal watches Omas and Jacen joust until the commander of the Galactic Alliance Guard excuses himself. She knows the Guard is growing in power, and has squashed many terror networks in mere months. Omas subtly warns her that he fears a power grab by Jacen would supplant them both. Lumiya flies to Bimial, still believing Ben is unworthy of becoming Jacen's apprentice. She is frustrated she cannot discern who Jacen's sacrifice must be for him to ascend to a true Sith Lord. Upon landing, it turns out she has been tracked by Alemarrar, who wants to gain access to Han and Leia by beginning to work with Jacen. Lumiya threatens to kill Alema if she disrupts her plans with Jacen, instead telling her to track him at all times. On Coruscant, Mara and Luke anxiously await for Ben's arrival, with Mara deciding that Lumia must be killed. Ben finally lands on the planet, and Mara takes him to see Luke, telling her son she believes Lumia is hunting him. Meanwhile, Boba and Murda search for the clone's adoptive father, Cal Skirata. Jacen is torn over his upcoming sacrifice, worrying it may be Alana or Ben he is forced to kill. He forcefully demands better supplies for the Guard, wanting to improve their weapons and effectively transform them from a police force to a full military. Frustrated by bureaucratic red tape, he begins to draft an amendment to remove approval requirements by the Senate. With the help of an administrative droid, Jacen introduces measures that will allow him to change any procedure he wants, at the behest of the Chief of State. It will effectively form a triumvirate with him, Calomos, and Niathal. Luke immediately deduces that Jacen was the one who sent Ben on his mission, even though his son says he has been sworn to secrecy. Ben says he is staying in the Guard, believing he can still do good while serving. Luke reluctantly understands his son's logic, but the problem still remains with how to handle Jacen. Mara prepares to leave for her mission to kill Lumia. As Ben rejoins the Guard, he feels a sense of comfort in the familiar environment. He looks forward to helping Jacen maintain peace on Coruscant again. The Guard prepares to start rooting out assassination attempts against high-level Coruscanti officials, including Calomos. They have also been granted permission to carry out any method of surveillance they deem fit, something Jacen's second-in-command, Shevu, feels uneasy about. Ben, meanwhile, has come to realize it was Lumia behind the attempt on his life on Ziost. Jacen tells him that one day, if he is destined for command, he should be prepared to make decisions that cost lives, to sacrifice his troops, or even himself. Ben asks Jacen to teach him how to hide in the Force. Jacen reveals the technique he uses is centered around blending with the universe itself as a form of camouflage. He also gives Ben a new mission. Ben learns Dur Geshen was responsible for attempting to assassinate Tenel Ka. Jacen now orders Ben to kill Geshen, alleging he destabilizes the Alliance's allies. He will be accompanied by Shevu and Lakaf, another soldier. Ben fights his emotions, feeling it is wrong to kill Geshen in this way. Elsewhere, Mara senses Ben's disappearance briefly in the Force. She still worries if Lumia will target her son or Jacen first. Meanwhile, Boba Fett and Murda finally find the clone they have been searching for, who is named Jang Skirata. Unfortunately, they learn Kosai's anti-aging research was destroyed. Mara visits Jacen, who secretly patches their conversation to an eavesdropping Lumia. He becomes convinced this great sacrifice will have to be Ben. After Mara leaves, Lumia confesses to Jacen her attempt to kill Ben, leading Jacen to believe she has overstepped. His government measures pass in the Senate, effectively granting him and Niathal unquestioned authority over supplying the defense forces. Jacen begins to plot his next move, to overthrow Calomos. They deserve to be ruled by the Sith. They need to be. Ben joins the surveillance project, and he and a team of soldiers tap into a conversation between Calomos and Dur Geshen himself. Shockingly, the two men are in secret talks, discussing terms for a ceasefire. Geshen says he can bring the Confederacy back in line if Omos is able to remove Niathal and Jacen from power. Despite the talks of peace, the Galactic Alliance guards and Ben are mainly concerned for the safety of Jacen, their leader, fearing Geshen may try to assassinate him. Ben believes his own mission of assassination is now necessary. Later, Jacen and Niathal meet, silently aware they each need the other for the short term, but not the bigger picture. A line is silently drawn, and they seem to agree to each other that a coup is necessary against Calomos. The two meet with the Chief of State, telling him they worry the Alliance is becoming overstretched. Jacen gives Omos an unspoken opportunity to admit to the secret meeting. Omos reveals nothing, and Jacen knows then in his heart the Chief of State must die. It is not disappointing to him. Leaving the meeting, Jacen and Niathal formally agree to be partners in a military coup where they will rule jointly. He claims Omos will be put under house arrest. Jacen feels a thrill of sorts, having been able to politically maneuver himself into a position of great power without being reliant on the Force. He meets with Lumia later, who firmly believes that the future of the galaxy now fully depends on Jacen. She resolves to completely dedicate herself to clearing his path to power. Calomos departs for a one-day trip to Volter, putting in motion Ben's mission and Jacen's scheme. On Mandalore, Boba and Murda learn the war with the Yuuzhan Vong exposed several loads of Beskar, the highly durable metal used to make Mandalorian armor and weapons. Seeing an opportunity, Fett summons the chieftains. They begin the construction of formidable ships constructed of Beskar, boosting the Mandalorian economy and firepower considerably. The planet will still remain neutral in the war, however. It is revealed that Dur Gejjen, true to his nature, plans to backstab Calomos by attacking Coruscant a few months after the ceasefire is agreed to. Ben trains with Shevu in sniper exercises as he prepares for his mission. In the early morning, Luke awakes to find Ben's boots in his and Mara's apartment. He believes Lumia was responsible, and Jacen claims to not know anything. Luke decides to join Mara in tracking Lumia down, and Jacen also decides to accompany them, hoping that Alema Rar will be in the Dark Lady's company. Mara, however, talks Luke down, saying he has too much personal history with Lumia to fight her. Ben, Shevu, and Lakov touch down on Volter. The mission goes smoothly, and Ben shoots Gejjen in the head, killing the Corellian Prime Minister. As the team makes its way back to Shevu's shuttle, Corellian police swarm the port and begin searching for the assassin. Meanwhile, Mara finds Lumia in the Sith meditation sphere and immediately attacks her. The women wound each other, with Lumia fleeing. Mara, however, was able to attach a tracker to her ship. On Coruscant, Jacen prepares for the clock to strike midnight, where he will enforce another amendment that will allow the Guard to detain politicians and seize their resources if they are deemed a threat to the Galactic Alliance. He believes now democracy and freedom are grand lies, and the temporary chaos he will unleash on the galaxy is necessary to create a longer-lasting peace. Ben is able to escape Volter with Shevu when Lakov sacrifices himself. He poses as a terrorist, taking a hostage to Shevu's shuttle. Upon reaching the ship, Lakov lets her go, but blows up the shuttle, sacrificing his own life so Ben and Shevu can fly away back to Coruscant. Elsewhere, Boba Fett and the Mandalorians reach an agreement with the Verpine of Roche, joining their war against the Mercana. He is aware that the Mercana are allies with the Alliance, effectively putting Mandalore on the side of the Confederacy. Boba continues to reorganize Mandalore into a cohesive nation, wanting to bring his people back into galactic prominence. The killing of Dur Gejjen makes reverberations across the galaxy. Luke meets with the High Council, who worry the Guard had something to do with the assassination. The recent rearming of Mandalore also concerns Luke, who still worries about Jacen's motivations and Mara's absence after leaving to hunt Lumia. Then, Mara arrives, telling them she has begun tracking Lumia back to her base. Ben also arrives on Coruscant, feeling guilty over Lakov's death. Mara confronts him, and he confesses to killing Gejjen under Jacen's orders. Jacen initiates the coup, arresting Calomos. The former chief of state accepts his fate in a dignified manner, and also realizes Jacen is responsible for Gejjen's assassination as well. Admiral Niathal declares a state of temporary martial law and addresses the Senate, saying she plans to step down and allow for civil elections once the war is over. She and Jacen will stand in as joint chiefs of state. Niathal also now knows she and Jacen are on a timer to see who will come out on top in their inevitable power struggle. Luke and the Jedi are put on the back foot again with Jacen's audacious power grab. Ben cloaks himself from the Force, visiting the Guard headquarters. He overhears Jacen confronting Lumia about exposing her presence to Mara. Lumia claims it was to convince Mara that Ben killed her daughter, but Jacen tells her she has overextended again. Ben learns that Jacen wiped his original memories of Neilani and Lumia, shocked at this revelation. He still refuses to believe that Jacen is a Sith, though, thinking he has fallen to the manipulations of Lumia instead. The news of the coup reaches Boba as he meets with a bounty hunter named Benku. It is revealed that he works for Jang, and gives Boba the cure for his illness as thanks for restoring Mandalore's power. He and Murda then learn that Sintas Vel, Boba's ex-wife, has been alive and frozen in carbonite all along. On Coruscant, Mara listens in silence as Ben tells her of Jacen's schemes with Lumia, dismayed that the man she has defended for so long has proven her wrong. Ben teaches her how to vanish in the Force, and Mara resolves to confront both Jacen and Lumia to save her son. Meanwhile, Jacen continues to puzzle over the prophetic tassels that lay out his destiny, focusing on the one that says he will immortalize his love. He feels an inevitable sense of duty still, but continues to deny the reality that Ben must be his sacrifice. It is also surprising to him that there has been a notable lack of protests or riots in the wake of Kalomas' arrest. Business, for all intents and purposes, has continued on as normal. Jacen and Niathal continue to cautiously navigate their political relationship, with each wanting to remain in the picture as one of the galaxy's big power players. Jacen is particularly growing concerned with Mandalore's increasing power, seeing them as a destabilizing influence and threat to his larger plans. He also believes Boba Fett is still on a vendetta to kill him. Later, Mara confronts Jacen again, surprising him by hiding her presence in the Force. She desires to turn him away from the dark side and Lumia's influence, wanting Jacen to return to his family. Mara openly accuses him of being a Sith, but Jacen doesn't respond and simply walks away. She now decides there is no other option but for him to die. Jacen returns to Lumia in his apartment, offering only vague details about his conversation with Mara. He decides to take a 2-day vacation under the guise of clearing his mind. However, he actually plans to visit Tenel Ka and his daughter Alana on Hapes. Lumia decides to track him in secret, believing his path to be clear now and that it is necessary to clear any and all distractions from Jacen's true destiny. Ben, meanwhile, has been staying with Shevu, away from Jacen and all the politics. He senses the Sith ship calling to him and makes a hurried departure. Mara leaves Coruscant to track Jacen, unaware that Lumia is following him as well. Lumia reaches Hapes and soon discovers that Jacen has a lover, quickly deducing it to be Tenel Ka and that he has a child with her as well. Mara and Ben also arrive separately in the system. As Jacen leaves Hapes, he senses Lumia's presence in the Force and immediately realizes she has discovered a secret. He prepares to kill her in his fighter but freezes upon hearing Mara's voice. Jacen and Mara begin to dogfight in their ships, with Lumia also appearing and surprisingly deciding to help Jacen. Ben also arrives, learning from the Sith sphere it is intended to be a training vessel for apprentices. The ship refuses Lumia's orders to open fire on Ben, mistakenly believing them both to be Sith in training. Mara is forced to land by Jacen, and she is grounded on the planet of Kavan. She senses Luke anxiously reaching out to her in the Force, and prepares to hunt down Jacen. Jacen and Mara find each other, and an explosive duel begins. They are evenly matched, but Mara is able to collapse a tunnel on Jacen and prepares to shoot him. Jacen deflects the bolt, and in a burst of energy, sends debris flying at Mara, stunning her. It all comes to him in a sudden realization. Mara must die to fulfill his destiny, for her death means that Jacen will have sacrificed Ben's love for him. Mara and Jacen brawl again, and Jacen is stabbed in the collarbone. As she prepares to deliver the killing blow, he creates a brief illusion of Ben's face. Mara hesitates, and Jacen stabs her in the leg with a poisoned dart. Mara Jade Skywalker dies cursing Jacen solo, and the Force shifts in a powerful yet subtle way. Jacen leaves her body behind on Kavan, departing to heal his wounds. Mara's death touches Ben, Luke, and Lumia in the Force. Lumia visits a shaken Jacen, telling him he is now at the dawn of his new existence as a Sith Lord. Luke is on Hapes, shell-shocked by the loss of his wife. He believes Lumia to be her killer. Luke falls into his pain and hunts down Lumia, who claims responsibility for Mara's death. She does so to protect Jacen and further conceal his true identity as a Sith. They begin to duel, and Luke, in a moment of cold calmness, decapitates his longtime enemy. Ben finds Mara's body and is approached by Jacen. Jacen then returns to the Alliance fleet stationed in Corellian space. He finds he now has a more profound and powerful battlefield awareness, which Jacen takes as vindication that his path is correct. He has properly ascended to a Sith Lord. Ben takes Mara's body back to Luke and the Jedi healer Silgal. He tells Luke it couldn't have been Lumia who killed Mara, since they were next to each other at the time of Mara's death. Luke's grief spirals, for he now knows that he has killed the wrong person. There was no semblance of justice in Lumia's death, no matter how evil she was. It is a final victory for the Dark Lady of the Sith, one that breaks something deep inside the Jedi Grandmaster. Jacen now knows that once Ben learns the truth, he will never love him again. He resolves to continue on his path and chooses a new name, Darth Caedus. Darth Caedus, the former Jedi Jacen Solo, teaches Tahiri Vela how to flow walk back in time. They journey to the Yuuzhan Vong War, where Tahiri amends a past mistake and kisses Jacen's younger brother, Anakin Solo. Caedus secretly plans to have Tahiri become his next apprentice, replacing Ben Skywalker. Later, he visits Tenel Ka in the Hapan Embassy on Coruscant, the eve before Mara Jade Skywalker's funeral. Still, no one knows that Caedus was responsible for Mara's death. Tenel Ka tells him she cannot spare any more ships to help the Alliance in the war. Caedus believes the Confederation is planning to amass its forces at Kuat, where he claims a decisive battle will take place. He is confident the Wookiees of Kashyyyk will assign their fleet to support the Alliance, tipping the scales in their favor. Luke Skywalker remains in a personal state of crisis following his wrongful killing of Lumia and the loss of his wife. Without his leadership, Caedus confides to Tenel Ka that the Jedi will not cooperate, as they still mistrust his plans. To protect Alana and his lover, he asks once more for the Hapan home fleet, knowing it would risk civil war breaking out on Hapes. Tenel Ka reluctantly agrees under the condition that Jacen mends his relationship with Luke. Mara's funeral takes place in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, attended by all the Solos and Skywalkers. Han and Leia feel guilty for their prior absences, wishing they could have been there to comfort Luke. As Leia walks to prepare to deliver her eulogy, she and Han are stopped by several guard soldiers. They are forced to flee the temple to avoid causing a commotion. Saba Sebatine instead delivers the eulogy. She worries about Luke, who remains withdrawn and lost to all their attempts to help. Ben, meanwhile, has fallen into a storm of pain, rage, and confusion. A disturbance then ripples through the crowd. Caedus, still only known as Jacen Solo, has arrived. He stands beside Luke, and the Jedi Masters present look at him with disgust. They know Caedus has no intention to repair relationships this day. This is merely a PR move to bolster his reputation as a powerful Force user. Luke suddenly speaks, believing Mara wanted them to reconcile. As if in response, her body begins to glow white with Force energy. It seems to be misinterpreted by everyone but Caedus, who knows that this is actually a warning. More importantly, he hopes this showing will finally convince Tenel Ka to give him the ships he needs to crush the Confederacy. The service ends, and Luke learns of Han and Leia's plight. Ben seems to be more jaded, not trusting Jacen's intentions anymore. Meanwhile, Jaina Solo, Jagged Fel, and Zek have tracked Alema Rar to Ossus, home of the Jedi Academy. With Lumia dead and proven innocent of the killing, Alema is now believed to be the assassin. As they land, Jaina notices that the landscape is oddly silent. They discover the Galactic Alliance Guard has already landed on Ossus and has taken over the Academy, allegedly for its protection. Jaina is furious once more at Jacen's actions. Alema, in hiding, overhears the guard has taken the younglings as hostages. She manages to escape in the Sith Sphere, intending to return to Lumia's home in Bimiel. Alema decides to try and find more Sith, should they exist, to help guide Caedus. Meanwhile, Caedus arrives with the Alliance fleet at Balmorra, which is beset by the Confederation and Hutt forces. While he is meditating, Ben patches in, seeking an audience. Caedus is caught off guard when Ben directly asks him if he killed Mara. He dodges denying or confirming the claims, confiding he wishes to neutralize the Jedi Order. He pretends to accidentally mention part of a name, which Ben immediately latches onto, believing Jacen knows the true killer's identity. Caedus then plays an altered recording of Calo Mas, who supposedly says Luke needs to be removed from power. However, Ben refuses to be dissuaded from his investigation, and after he leaves, Caedus gives orders to place more protection around the deposed Kalomos. It turns out Han and Leia have fled to the planet of Kashyyyk, where they are warmly received by the Wookiees. They hope to dissuade them from joining Jacen in his fight against the Confederacy. Meanwhile, Caedus begins a fighting withdrawal of Balmorra, intending to cede the planet while inflicting as many casualties as possible. Conveniently, this maneuver will also greatly weaken the Alliance 4th Fleet. The Jedi then arrive in great numbers, attacking Commenorian capital ships. It is revealed Luke is among them, and the 4th Fleet is able to drive back the Confederacy. On Coruscant, Ben sneaks into Kalomos' quarters, who believes he is there to assassinate him under Jacen's orders. Ben confides he believes Jacen was actually Mara's killer, shocking Omos. Now, he seeks to kill Jacen out of revenge, and to do so must fake Omos' death to convince Jacen Ben can still be trusted. Omos throws himself on Ben's lightsaber, sacrificing himself to help Ben's plan. The Alliance fleet moves on to Kuat, with Luke beginning to feel conflicted about the Jedi's role in the battle. He knows the war must be ended soon if democracy is to be restored, under the tentative condition Niathal and Jacen agree to stand down. The Jedi then learn of Omos' death, and that Ben may have been involved. Caedus remains convinced the path of the Sith is the right one, with the Haven home fleet poised to crush the enemy. However, the fleet delays, and Caedus also soon learns of Omos' death. Luke arrives on his ship and confronts his nephew about Ben. He throws Jacen across the room and immobilizes him, without even moving a muscle. Luke is able to see through some, but not all, of Jacen's lies. The Haven fleet finally arrives in position, ending the conversation. As Luke departs, he tells Jacen the Jedi will no longer support him. Jacen is baffled, as he believes he is closer than ever to achieving peace in the galaxy. Luke then travels to Kashyyyk, surprising Han, Leia, and the Wookiees. He formally asks the Wookiees to join the Jedi in a fight against Jacen. Ben returns to the Anakin Solo and begins plotting to assassinate Jacen. He manipulates him into thinking Ben blames Omos for Mara's death. Ben also tells Jacen Luke has gone to Kashyyyk, presumably to ask the Wookiees to help him overthrow Jacen. Jacen immediately orders the 5th Fleet and Anakin Solo to change course for the planet. On Ossus, Jaina and the youngling she is charged with protecting are hit with coma gas and whisked away. She manages to escape and link up with the other adult Jedi and Jagged and Zek. A battle breaks out between the Jedi and Galactic Alliance Guard, with both sides taking casualties. Caedus arrives in orbit around Kashyyyk, knowing Luke, Han, and Leia are still on the surface. He believes their treachery to his goal, his vision, to be irredeemable. Caedus transmits a message to the Wookiees, claiming they have either betrayed the Alliance or are now under the control of the treacherous Jedi. He regards the Kashyyyk fleet as unimportant now. As the tension grows, Caedus also hopes Ben will strike to kill him soon, proof of his worthiness to become a Sith apprentice. Caedus opens fire on Kashyyyk, bombarding the planet. He hopes the Confederacy, in an attempt to appease the Wookiees and bring them to their side, will come to their defense. Consequently, their push on Coruscant will be stalled. The bombardment begins, and the Jedi fly up in their Stealth X fighters to defend Kashyyyk. Ben attacks Caedus, looking to kill his former mentor. Then, the Jedi Lobaka drops a shadow bomb on the Anakin Solo, rocking the bridge and stunning Ben. Caedus walks over to him and helps him up, saying their work has only just begun. On the surface, Han cuts off his emotional attachments to Jacen. Leia sadly agrees their son as they once knew him is now dead. Meanwhile, a Lemish Sith ship takes her to Korriban. She journeys to the Valley of the Dark Lords and finds a complex of high towers. Behind the walls are rows of cloaked figures, all Sith. She is told they are called the One Sith, and asks them to help Caedus fight his war and become a true Dark Lord. They state Jacen Solo was the plan of only Lumia and Vergir, and that the One Sith will not become involved in the war. Their leader apparently met Vergir while held in captivity by the Yuuzhan Vong. Jaina flies to Kashyyyk and leads a squadron of fighters to aid the planet's defense. She meets up with Luke, and also learns Tahiri Vela has disappeared. They fly up to battle the Anakin Solo. Jaina is hit and loses control of her ship as she and Luke enter a dogfight with Jacen himself. A stray shot from Jaina then strikes Luke's ship, blowing it up. She has shot the leader of the Jedi Order down. Leia, who is now flying to Hapes with Han, falls to the ground as she senses Luke vanish in the Force. Upon their arrival, Tahiri shows up and attempts to arrest Han and Leia, saying she stands with Jacen. Leia and Tahiri duel, but are broken up by Han and Tenel Ka. She orders Tahiri to leave Hapes, and Han and Leia are able to convince her to stop supporting Jacen. Caedus puts Ben in the Embrace of Pain, the Yuuzhan Vong device that profoundly transformed him during the Yuuzhan Vong War. Ben by now feels venomous hatred towards Jacen, who seeks to fully turn the young Jedi to the dark side. Jacen reveals that he has separated Ben from the Force, and tells him of Luke's presumed death. However, Ben knows that Luke actually survived, and is slowly making his way towards Jacen on the ship. In a tremendous display of power, Luke has only let Ben, and Ben alone, sense his presence in the Force. He reaches the chamber where Ben is held, and immediately attacks Jacen. Jacen is cut in the kidney, but uses the pain to grow stronger and faster. He throws a bed of thorns at Luke and lands several devastating strikes to his chest, where Luke is still recovering from his wounds from Lumia. Luke continues to attack, wounding Jacen in the eye and throwing him into more thorns. Ben frees himself from the Embrace of Pain and stops Luke, demanding he be the one to kill Jacen. Luke hesitates, and Jacen brings the light panels down, sending the room into darkness. They fight again, with Jacen gaining the upper hand by garroting Luke. Ben throws a dagger into Jacen's back, ending the fight. As Jacen crawls away, Ben grabs Jacen's lightsaber and coldly insists on killing him, chilling Luke, who senses hate and darkness in his son. Luke calls Ben back, and they run instead to escape the ship. Caedus manages to make it to the infirmary to get treatment for his wounds, still savoring the pain shooting through his body. He learns the Confederacy has arrived, engaging his fleet. Additionally, Niathal has withheld some reinforcements, apparently seeing an opportunity to remove her main political rival. Even in his weakened state, Caedus stumbles to his feet and resumes command. The Hapans then arrive, but instead turn on Caedus' forces. To his disbelief, Tenel Ka patches in and informs him of her decision to withdraw her support. He insists everything can be explained, but she refuses to change her mind. A terrible rage builds up in Caedus, even more so when Han and Leia appear by Tenel Ka's side. He senses that although she has abandoned her love for him, it is now just another sacrifice he must endure. The Alliance 5th Fleet is lost, with the Anakin Solo taking serious damage as well. Caedus enters a battle meditation trance and launches a final attack on the Bothan fleet, filling his troops with thoughts of conviction and belief that they will be able to escape. He also senses Alema Rar in the Force, sowing indecision and uncertainty in the Bothans. Caedus is unaware she is able to do so through the powers of the Sith meditation sphere. His fleet is able to escape. In the aftermath of the battle, the Confederacy and Alliance agree to cease hostilities, seeing Jacen as a bigger threat.